Imagine driving for 14 straight hours without stopping. In your hand, you're holding a freshly signed deed, the ink barely dry from the notary stamp. You've invested $187,000 and poured 8 long months of your life into reaching this exact moment. Then, just 200 meters from your front door, you hear it, a sharp, high-pitched drilling sound slicing through quiet morning fog. You step out of your truck, and there she is, a woman you've never seen before, crouched at the entrance of your property, calmly replacing the lock as if she owns the place. She turns to face you. No hesitation, no embarrassment, just a practiced smile, the kind someone rehearses over and over again. "I'm protecting community heritage," she says smoothly. "And who exactly are you?" What happened after that moment led to a packed room of 200 people and 4 federal agents walking into the back door. Stay with me. My name is Scott Collins. I'm based in Denver. I'm not a developer, not a resort mogul, and definitely not the villain of anyone's story. I'm just someone who spent years saving carefully and planning deliberately for one goal: owning a 3-bedroom log cabin sitting on 12 acres in Clearwater County, Montana. The place was called Forest Ridge Lodge. The plan was simple: renovate the property, rent it out on weekends, and retire there within 5 years. I did everything right. I had the deed, title insurance, inspection reports, survey maps, and official county recording confirmation. This was supposed to be the quiet beginning of something I had built from nothing. Then came the sound of that drill. The woman at my door had a laminated ID clipped to her jacket. Her name was Deborah Caldwell, and her title read Clearwater Regional Natural Heritage Coordinator. Later, I confirmed that no such title existed in any government registry, payroll, or recognized organization. She had created it entirely on her own. She informed me there was an active ecological assessment underway and that no unauthorized access was allowed during the review period. According to her, I needed to speak with the Clearwater Conservation Committee before I could enter my own property. I held up my deed. She barely glanced at it, like it didn't matter. So I called 911. It took 40 minutes for someone to arrive. Sergeant Dale Pute showed up and approached Deborah like she was a neighbor at a barbecue. Relaxed posture, soft tone. The professional distance you expect from law enforcement was gone, replaced by something far more concerning. He described the situation as a jurisdictional dispute and suggested I find temporary accommodations until things were resolved. He didn't ask Deborah for a single document. He didn't even look me directly in the eye. I got back in my truck and left. To anyone watching, it looked like I had already lost. Deborah stood on my porch as I drove away, calm and satisfied, like someone watching an obstacle remove itself. She thought that was the end of it. Before I even reached the main road, I called my real estate attorney in Denver. "I've just been blocked from my own property." I told him, "Start digging into Deborah Caldwell and something called the Clearwater Conservation Committee." Then I hung up and started digging myself. Within 48 hours, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends I hadn't spoken to in months were sending me the same thing: a viral post from an online group called Protect Clearwater Nature, with over 4,200 members. Deborah had posted a long, carefully written message. It included a photo of me standing in front of the lodge. The image had been edited, the sky darkened, the angle low, making me look imposing, like an intruder instead of the owner. The caption labeled me as an out-of-state speculator trying to seize sacred forest land for commercial development. The comments turned hostile fast. People who had never met me, never seen a deed, and never spoken to me had already decided I was the villain. Get him out. Deborah has fought for us for years. We won't let this happen. I read every comment. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, I sat in a motel room with a topographical map of Clearwater County spread across the bed, a yellow legal pad beside it, and my laptop open. Deborah claimed she had spent 7 years protecting that forest, but the lodge had only been vacant for 3. That didn't add up. I wrote it down. Then things escalated. A local radio station aired a 90-second interview with Deborah. Her voice carried emotion, almost convincing grief. She talked about years of dedication and the community's bond with the land. She never told a direct lie. She didn't need to. Every sentence was crafted as a suggestion, an implication, a carefully placed pause. I listened to it 3 times, not out of anger, but to study her technique. This wasn't amateur manipulation. This was practice. Within a week, I received an official email from something called the Clearwater Residents Council requesting my appearance at a community hearing. A reporter left a voicemail asking about my development plans. My attorney got a letter from a firm suggesting the property was subject to community environmental review. None of these organizations existed in any legal database. They were names on paper. Nothing more. Then I searched something else. Caldwell Clearwater in the Montana Secretary of State Registry. The result appeared in seconds. Clearwater Natural Heritage Alliance, LLC, registered in 2019. Sole agent, Deborah and Caldwell. Registered address, my lodge. My property had been listed as the headquarters of her organization for 5 years, without my knowledge or the knowledge of any previous owner. She hadn't just taken my door. She had embedded herself into my property's paper trail. So I changed strategy. I rented a plain gray pickup, no Denver plates, and approached from the north using a forestry access road. I parked 2 miles out and continued on foot. I brought a telephoto camera, a handheld GPS unit, and soil sample bags. I had already reviewed 3 years of satellite imagery and identified an unusual thinning pattern in the forest canopy. After 40 minutes of walking, I found it, a road, 4 meters wide, compacted with gravel and crushed stone, running straight through the forest. The edges were starting to regrow, but the structure was still solid. The drainage was engineered. This wasn't a trail. This was a haul road, built to carry heavy loads and designed to stay hidden from public access points. I documented everything. Photos, coordinates, soil samples. Then I noticed a smell. Faint, chemical, sharper than petroleum. I couldn't identify it immediately, but I collected additional samples. On my way back, I stopped at a local hardware store and struck up a casual conversation with a clerk named Marcus. I asked about recent bulk orders. Nothing suspicious. He mentioned a conservation group that had been ordering large quantities of gravel, aggregate, and drainage piping. He printed 3 months of receipts for me. I sat in my truck, reading them. Conservation funds used for road construction through protected forest land. The pattern was becoming clear. That's when I realized they were watching me too. One morning, I found my rental truck's front tire slashed clean through the sidewall. Later that day, my side mirror had been deliberately folded inward. Someone had approached my vehicle in broad daylight without fear. Then I got a text. You should go back to Denver. This forest doesn't treat outsiders well. I took a screenshot and kept going. I drove 2 hours to the nearest Best Buy and purchased 4 wireless cameras, a GPS tracker, an audio recorder, paid in cash. That night, I installed the cameras around my property. I placed the GPS tracker under Deborah's SUV. Then I waited. On the 3rd night, at 3:47 a.m., a commercial timber truck arrived without headlights. It pulled into the lodge. Deborah came out almost immediately. She had been waiting. 2 others joined her from the tree line. They exchanged something at the tailgate. After 25 minutes, the truck left. The audio recorder captured her voice afterward. Next shipment before Friday. The Alliance account is ready. I reviewed that footage 6 times. Then the lab results came back. The soil contained elevated levels of imazapyr, a herbicide used to stop forest regrowth. In a protected federal zone, it was illegal. They weren't just cutting trees. They were preventing the forest from coming back. I checked federal grant records. 3 grants. Total, $340,000. All intended to protect the forest. All tied to Deborah's organization. I called the Department of the Interior's Inspector General Hotline. That call eventually connected me to Special Agent Rachel Huang from the FBI. I gave her everything. She listened silently, then said one thing: preserve everything. Speak to no one. For 3 weeks, I went quiet. No statements. No interviews. No appearances. To everyone else, it looked like I had given up. That's exactly what Deborah believed. Behind the scenes, the FBI conducted a full financial audit. $210,000 had been funneled into shell companies controlled by Deborah. Over 340 trees had been illegally harvested. Total exposure, over $500,000. Then Deborah made her final mistake. She forged a federal document and tried to secure an $80,000 loan. The bank flagged it immediately. The FBI stepped in. The case was complete. Soon after, an invitation arrived for a public community meeting. Deborah planned to present her case against me. I accepted. I arrived alone, carrying only a thin folder. Deborah took the stage, confident and composed. She presented her narrative page by page. Then came the contract, a timber harvesting agreement, signed by her. The room fell silent. I stood up, showed them page 31. She hesitated, then complied. A bank transfer appeared on screen, $47,000 into her personal account. At that moment, everything changed. Then the doors opened. Four federal agents walked in. Agent Huang stepped forward and read the charges. Fraud, illegal harvesting, forgery, money laundering. Deborah tried to defend herself, but it was over. She was handcuffed and led out. The next morning, I returned to my property. No drill, no SUV, just silence. I unlocked my door, my lock, and stepped inside. Through the window, I could see restoration crews replanting trees. The forest was coming back. And for the first time, there was nothing left to prove, only something to rebuild. Because in the end, this wasn't about luck. It came down to four things. Document everything. Go to the right authority. Stay silent when it matters. And remember, arrogance always reveals itself.